Elena stood by the tall glass window of her office, the city below a shimmering grid of urgency. She was a woman who solved problems for a living, a master of logic and logistics. Yet, as she watched the sunset bleed into the horizon, she realized that the loudest noise wasn't the traffic outside, but the relentless, frantic hum of her own mind. A list of duties that never seemed to end. Mornings were a high-stakes choreography of cold coffee and missing shoes. As Elena double-checked her calendar, her daughter, Lucia, tugged at her hem to show her a pebble she had found. Elena nodded absently, her thoughts already 3 hours ahead, navigating a board meeting she hadn't yet attended. She was physically there, but her spirit was miles away, lost in the next. At her desk, the digital world demanded every fragment of her attention. A dozen browser tabs mirrored the a dozen open loops in her brain. She was the architect of efficiency, yet she felt like a library with the windows left open during a gale. The data was there, the knowledge was vast, but the peace had been blown away. The breaking point came in the smallest of moments. A ceramic mug slipped from her hand, shattering against the kitchen tile. Elena stared at the shards, and for the first time in years, she didn't rush to clean it up. She simply stood there, realizing she was just as fragmented as the clay at her feet. The perfect structure had finally cracked. That weekend, she sought out Clara, an old mentor who lived in a house filled with the scent of dried herbs and ancient books. They sat together on a weathered garden bench. Clara didn't offer a new productivity hack or a better scheduling app. Instead, she offered a silence that felt like a sanctuary. Clara picked up a single fallen leaf and turned it slowly in the sunlight. Mindfulness, Elena, isn't about emptying your mind of the chaos, she whispered. It is about finding the space between the thoughts. It is the ability to be the axis of the wheel, the one point that remains still while everything else spins. Elena returned home and began with the mundane. She stood at the sink, washing the dinner plates. Instead of planning tomorrow's presentation, she felt the temperature of the water and the silkiness of the soap. She noticed the way the light caught the bubbles. For the first time in months, the hum in her head began to soften into a melody. When Lucia approached her later with a book, Elena didn't check her watch. She sat on the floor, feeling the rug beneath her, and looked into her daughter's eyes. She saw the flecks of gold there that she had missed for far too long. In that moment, there was no later. There was only the weight of the child against her shoulder and the sound of a story. She learned that her strength didn't come from her ability to carry everything at once, but from her wisdom to know what to set down. She began to build a quiet room inside herself, a place she could retreat to even in the middle of a frantic deadline. It was a place built of breath and presence. The world didn't get any slower, and the city didn't stop its frantic pace. But as Elena walked through the crowded streets, she was no longer a leaf caught in the wind. She was the anchor. She breathed in the complexity of her life and exhaled a steady, quiet light, finally at home within herself.